Merry Meet. I'm so happy you've joined us today. We are going to be working a psalm spell today, and today we are working Psalm number 36. And traditionally, one of the several traditional uses for Psalm 36 is to receive grace. And so that's what we're going to be working on today, is receiving grace. Now remember that grace is like the love that a mother has for a child. And if you think about the most perfect mother in the world, how she might love that child. If the child, soils its diaper, the mother doesn't stop loving it. If the child starts to cry, the mother doesn't stop loving it, right? There's nothing that the child is going to do, that infant is going to do, that makes the mother stop loving it, all right? And so if you can think of grace in that way, there's absolutely nothing in your past that you could have done that will ever be able to thwart the love of the infinite intelligence has for you. So, and as we receive that grace, then that love, that unconditional love, has the ability to set right anything that is wrong within our lives. And that's what we are invoking today with this psalm. The way we work the psalm is very simple. We read the psalm all the way through once without stopping out loud. And this we call an incantation. And then we move back through the psalm and we go through it very slowly and thoroughly as best as we can. We take it piece by piece, verse by verse, sometimes line by line, sometimes even word by word. And we are digging and searching and seeking to find inner meanings, these seeds of magic that are forever infinitely existent within the psalm. And as we search and seek and find and contemplate these inner meanings, those thoughts are planted like seeds into our deep mind, and in a very real way, they take root and they grow and they bear fruit after their kind. And so we're going to work on that right now together, you and I. So here we go with Psalm number 36. The transgression of the wicked saith within my heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes. For he flattereth himself in his own eyes until his iniquity be found to be hateful. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He hath left off to be wise and to do good. He deviseth mischief upon his bed. He setteth himself a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. Thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens, and thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. Thy righteousness is like the great mountains. Thy judgments are a great deep. O Lord, thou preservest man and beast. How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God! Therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. For with thee is the fountain of life. In thy light shall we see light. O continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee, and thy righteousness to the upright in heart. Let not the foot of pride come against me, and not let the hand of the wicked remove me. There are workers of iniquity fallen. They are cast down and shall not be able to rise. All right, so let's work on this psalm. It starts out with, the transgression of the wicked saith within my heart that there is no fear of God before his eyes. So the transgression of the wicked within our heart, okay, it says within our heart. So the transgression of the wicked are those thought forms within us that are trying to think separately from our Creator. Okay, so that is the transgression of the wicked. The wicked simply means that which is trying to think apart from good, which is ultimately not even possible. It can only happen within the realm of a hallucination or a nightmare. Okay, that there is no fear of God before his eyes. Well, there's no fear of God before those thought forms, because the fear of God, first of all, is a respect. It's not a fear in the way that we use it in modern times, meaning, it's not that kind of fear. It's the respect that we have, just like the respect that we have for a sunset, the respect that we have for electricity, the respect that we have for lightning, the respect that we have for wind. That's fear. And it's impossible that there's any of that respect for this power by those what we call wicked thought forms, because they are trying to think separately from their Creator. Therefore, they don't even consider their Creator. Okay, so of course there's no fear of God before his eyes. For he flattereth himself in his own eyes until his iniquity be found to be hateful. So flattering, those thought forms are flattering themselves, meaning that they think that they can do something of themselves. They think that they can operate separate from the Creator, and that is a type of flattery. That's a type of arrogance. But that kind of arrogance is a no way, is a one-way street to nowhere, because there is no life outside of our source, outside of our Creator, until his iniquity be found to be hateful. So that's where hatred always starts from, is this idea that we're trying to be, do, or have something that cannot be done, that cannot be had, that cannot be at all. So we are trying to do the impossible, and when we can't accomplish the impossible, we become hateful. The words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. He hath left off to be wise and to do good. So those we were given our minds in order that we could be fully functional spiritual beings. And when we started to misuse our mind, whenever we misuse our mind, that's the words of his mouth are iniquity and deceit. Now, obviously, we can talk about that in terms of how we use our speech, because speech is one of the most direct ways that we can see how we're using our mind. Notice how you're using your speech. Anytime that you have anything coming out of your mouth that is obviously separate from your Creator, it comes from one of those thought forms that we were talking about. So listen to what you're saying, and remember that anything that's not perfect love is a lie. So those thought forms are deceitful by nature, because they are trying to prove to you that God does not exist. They are trying to prove to you that good does not exist. They are trying to prove to you that you are separate and alone, and that is deceit. Okay, he hath left off to be wise and to do no good. So these thought forms are the only way that you can prove that you're separate from perfection is by proving imperfection. Okay, so the only way that you can prove that you are separate from all good is through being unwise and to not do good. So remember that those thought forms, they're programmed to prove to you that there is no God. They are there to prove to you that you are separate from God, that you are separate from your good. And the only way that they can do that is to prove that you're not good, that you're not wise. Okay? And they are lies. He deviseth mischief upon his bed, and setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. Okay, this is a very interesting line. There's so many ways to look at it, but let's look at it this way today. Think of the last thing that you're thinking of as you drop off to sleep each night is conditioning your deep mind as to who you are, what you want. You're conditioning yourself. So if you're not thinking in terms of God, if you're not thinking in terms of infinite principle as you fall off to sleep, if you're not disciplining your mind to do that, then you are feeding those other thought forms. Okay, so watch what you're doing as you fall off to sleep. When it says, he deviseth mischief upon his bed, he setteth himself in a way that is not good, he abhorreth not evil. Think about what you're thinking about as you drop off to sleep, because that's what you're bringing in to your deep mind each night. Okay, that's just one way to look at that. Thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens, and thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. So the mercy of God, again, that is sphere number 4 on the tree of life, O Lord, is in the heavens. Now, heaven is not a place. It is not a place up in the sky, even though poetically in this particular verse it's talked about as with clouds and things like that. Heaven is a place that is within you, that is where you already live. It is your true home because it's the only place. It's the only home. It's the only realm, I should say, not place. It's the only realm. Okay? And when you have eyes to see, then the old hellish world that you're existing in evaporates, and then you see that you're actually living in heaven now. And so that's why when we say, thy mercy, O Lord, is in the heavens, and thy faithfulness reacheth unto the clouds. So God is faithful to the truth. And the truth is that you already are in heaven. You already are in perfection. You already are in a state of grace. And so getting rid of these other thought forms that are blocking that is what we're doing here. Thy righteousness is like the great mountains. Thy judgments are a great deep. O Lord, thou preservest man and beast. So the righteousness of God means righteousness simply means right thinking, right acting, okay, rightness, that truthfulness, realness, that you're going for the real, not the fantasy, that you're going for the truth, not the lie, that you're going for the reality, not the illusion. And it's like the great mountains, meaning if, in this particular case, the mountains are talking about solid structures that are high up. So that your highest sense of self is the most solid part of you. Okay, thy judgments are a great deep. So when God's judgments are exactly what you want, because God judges everything according to truth. God looks at you and says, no. You're not separate. You are with me, and you are safe, and you are prosperous, and all is well. That's God's judgment, and God's judgment goes deep. And so you want God's judgment to replace these thought forms, and you want it now. O Lord, thou preservest man and beast. So there's nothing that you have to worry about. There's nothing that you have to worry about. You just need to put your faith where it belongs, and that's faith in this power, and that's how you use your mind rightly. And then you have no worries, okay? How excellent is thy loving kindness, O God. Therefore, the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. So we're again exalting the truth about loving kindness and where it comes from, because God is love. God is loving kindness. That's what that energy is. And the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. So the shadow of the wings is a poetic way, especially when in a desert community where these things come from, that you get relief from that scorching sun. You get protected from that which is a problem. And so all of the protection that you feel like you need is already there, because you are already under the shadow of the wings of God. Therefore, all you have to do is recognize that truth, and then you're no longer using your mind to try to find a place somewhere else that doesn't really even exist. Allow your mind to pull you back to who you are and where you are, and that is perfectly safe. They shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of thy house, and thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. Okay, so abundantly satisfied with the fatness of God's house. Well, what's God's house? God's house is not a place that separates God from everything else. God's house is the inclusivity of all that is, all that's real. So when you're in God's house, that means you're in reality. When you're outside of God's house, that means that you're in fantasy. Okay, so there is no spot where God is not. So there is no place where you're not in God's house. You're always in God's house. And anytime that you're thinking that there's a problem that is outside of God's house, it's because you're not really thinking at all. You are fantasizing. You are dreaming. Okay, so we want to bring that thought back to the truth, and that's you are abundantly satisfied with the fatness of God's house, meaning that every single thing that you could possibly want has already been given you. It's already there. It's there right now, always has been, always will be. You want for nothing. And so anytime that you feel like there's a problem, anytime you feel like you're in want, it's because you're trying to exist outside of God's house. And thou shalt make them drink of the river of thy pleasures. So God is where all pleasure is. There's only good. There's only good in God. There's only pleasure. There's no pain. There's no discomfort. There's no wickedness, because there's only truth. So these principles of God, remember, have no opposites. You can't say that the opposite of love is fear, because there is no principle of fear. There's only the principle of love. Fear is simply a shadowing of a principle. It has no principle of its own. Otherwise, it could not be destroyed by the thing that it shadows. There is no principle of darkness. There's only a shadowing of light. If there was a principle of darkness, then darkness could not be destroyed by light. Okay, so remember that in God there's only real principle, so there's nothing to oppose it. For within thee is the fountain of life, in thy light shall we see light. So you see in light, you see truth in light. So you want to be in God to see truthfully. If you are trying to see outside of God, that means that you're looking into darkness, which means that you can't see at all. So the only thing you can do is project and hallucinate. That's the only thing you can do in darkness, is to project and hallucinate, because the truth has to be seen in light. That's the way that you see, is in light, and light is in God. Oh, continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee, and thy righteousness upon the upright in heart. So continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee. Well, we are just extolling the truth. There's no place that God stops continuing. God doesn't just go, well, God's not capricious. Okay? God's not a person. God's not got an ego and a personality. God is the source of love. God is the source of all good. So, continue thy loving kindness unto them that know thee. The way that you continue receiving God's loving kindness is to know God, is to practice this. Okay, God's not going to just say, well, I'm going to cut you off for a while because I'm kind of sick of you. It doesn't work that way. And thy righteousness to the upright in heart. So God's righteousness exists in the upright in heart, meaning that you are deciding that you want to see things the way that God sees things, rather than trying to make up your own version of life. Okay? Let not the foot of pride come against me, and let not the hand of the wicked remove me. And that's very, very self-explanatory, but let's just look at it real quickly. We're just reminding ourselves, I don't want to make stuff up. I want to know the truth. I don't want to have my version of life. I want God's version of life, because infinite love already knows what I'm supposed to be here for. Infinite love already knows what I'm supposed to be doing. I know as a soul what I came here to do, but as an ego, I'm trying to forget what I came here to do. So let me remember. So let not the foot of pride come against me. Let me not make up my own version of things. Let me do what I came here to do. And let not the hand of the wicked remove me. Let not these silly little thought forms that I've swallowed because of the way that this world is set up. I came here and got trained by the world instead of trained by my soul. Let me get rid of those now. I don't need those. I never needed those. And let's get rid of them now. There are the workers of iniquity fallen. They are cast down and shall not be able to rise. So there are the workers of iniquity fallen. The workers of iniquity are fallen in the presence of the light. And that just means darkness is dispelled by light. It's not a big mystery. There's no fight that happens. It's just gone. It just disappears because it wasn't there to begin with. Okay, so there are the workers of iniquity fallen. They are cast down and shall not be able to rise. Darkness cannot rise in the presence of light. It's just a metaphysical truth. It's nothing. There's no big war going on. Okay, it's just either you're into illusion or you're into truth, but you can't do both at the same time. And so now we are saying, I want grace, therefore that means I want truth. And that's how you work these Psalms. It's very simple. You just take it, like I said, 2-step formula, read it out loud all the way through without stopping once as an incantation, and then you go back and consider things line by line, little by little, and each time you go through a Psalm, you're going to get a whole bunch of new seeds that you didn't even know was there. So you could take the same Psalm and do it again and again and again and again and get infinite amounts of magical seeds planted into your mind. And so that's how these things work. There's not sort of like some mystical words coming out of the mystical energy coming out of the words themselves that's going to go out and make things change for you. That's not how it works. It changes things for you by reconditioning the thought patterns and the thought forms within your deep mind, your habitual mind. And so you keep coming back to the Psalm again and again and again until you notice some definite movement in the right direction for whatever problem or goal that you brought to the Psalm. Okay, because it's actual magic. You should see actual results. It does more than just make you feel better. Okay, so I'm so happy that you joined me today, and I cannot wait to work with you again. And until that time, blessed be.